There we go. I've got it off on there.
Okay. So hello, everyone. Welcome to the Pre-Pod Debriefing. I brought my mom on here so that she could help me read the comments as well as keep me on.
We're on task.
Yeah. Woo. Okay, there we go. Keep me on task so that we can talk about the things we need to talk about. This is being recorded, so I will be able to share this on the podcast as well as on YouTube. So if anyone's missing this, no worries. So I'll give us a couple more minutes to let everyone come on, and then we can start chatting.
Okay.
Also, for anybody that has any questions that you had from Unfiltered, please feel free to ask. This is the open session where you can ask any question you'd like.
And I'll be keeping track of the chat and tell you what the questions are.
Okay. Okay, so it looks like more people are getting on. Hello, everyone. So happy to have you all here. I brought my mom in to keep me on task about what we're going to talk about. If you did listen to Unfiltered and you do have questions, please feel free to ask. It is an open zone right now. No filter. Hello, Grandma. Okay. So I guess we'll start soon. We'll start now, then we can share it. Okay, so let's debrief Unfiltered. Hi, Kendall. How are you? So we're going to talk about Unfiltered. I gave you guys a lot. I feel like I dumped a lot on everyone. And then I listened to it again and realized there are some things that I need to mention and talk about, especially if I'm going to advocate for subjects like this. So all of the events that have happened. Oh no, I froze. No.
Oh yeah, it does that once in a while, and then it comes back. So.
Okay, so hopefully it will be good. Let me know if you can hear me. If not, this is being recorded, so I will have this available for everyone to see again. And I don't think it'll freeze when I share that one. So, with Unfiltered, all of the events that occurred happened about 8 to 9+ years ago. And I'm still working on healing, as you may have heard. As you know, healing, we talked about how healing isn't linear, and it's very true. Because as you can hear in my episode, what?
It's not a straight line.
Oh, yeah, no, it's definitely not. And as you can hear in the episode, I'm still blaming myself today for the events that occurred. And I'm still taking responsibility. That's not mine. And it's definitely something that I'm working on. As you heard, I have a therapist, I have a counselor that I just brought in this year. But it's important for me to tell you this because I don't want people to listen to that episode and think, oh, I should feel shame or I should feel like I'm the one to blame when you're in circumstances like this, because that is detrimental to your health. And it's important for me to share this with you. So one of the things I also wanted to talk about is my mom actually helped me with the description, and we had it say that I was a part of a intimate abuse, and
intimate partner violence.
Intimate partner violence. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. And with that, because I thought that our relationship was more of a psychological, well, I wouldn't have said abuse, but that is the victim feeling of the shame of like, oh no, that didn't happen to me. So the reason why I'm saying this is because I have a hard time accepting, which I'm also healing, that I was in an abusive relationship. So I wanted to say that here because it was hard to read that. And I'm sure many of you have felt this way when you realize, oh, yeah, it actually was abusive. And when I overheard, not overheard, but when I heard my episode again and I went through the gaslighting signs, it was abusive. And there's a lot that I read that we're going to discuss in this debriefing. So let's start off with gaslighting. What is that? Gaslighting is when it's a manipulation where someone uses the psychological means into making you question your own sanity. So I have examples to help you understand what that means. Number one, that's blatant lying or constant cover ups, which, if you heard in my episode, there was so many times he lied. There were so many times that he made me think I did something wrong when I did not. The second example is denying conversations or events, which that, as you know, that happened as well. A third sign is manipulating others to see you differently. And as you know, he had his mom try to schedule me for a counselor. And technically, I do feel like I probably did need a counselor, but not for the same reasons that he wanted me to get a counselor, for the reasons that I needed to get out of this abusive relationship. And another sign is that actions contradict words, which that happened all the time. And then this is the final sign that I wrote down, but there are many more with gaslighting. One is that feeling like you have to defend reality.
Mm-hmm.
And that happened so many times. And I have examples in the podcast, as well as more that I may share along the way.
Well, I think too, because, as your mom and I was there kind of watching this stuff, some of the stuff that was going on beyond even the gaslighting was like the micromanaging you. And it was something small like, oh, you were in his truck. And if you dropped like a straw wrapper or something, that was like a big crisis because the truck was like this thing that had to be pristine. And oh my goodness, it's, I'm kind of making this one up, but I'm not really. It's the muddy time of year and I might have gotten mud on his floor mats and he's going to be mad and I got to clean that up quickly and I got to make sure it's all good for him. And that kind of thing, like you said, like you've done something wrong. Well, it's April, it gets muddy. You hadn't done anything wrong. And those were the kinds of things that you were so nervous and worked up about that I don't think you even realized that people were seeing.
Yeah, I mean, I really didn't realize that people were seeing the signs because like I said in the podcast, I was so engulfed in school and working and trying to follow these rules that he had that I just didn't see the signs myself. And when you bring that up, there's a story that I did not share in my podcast. And it was that there was a time where both of us were working, my former boyfriend and I bought him a gift. It was so that you could go like not skiing, but it was like one of those tubes that you could go tubing. And I bought him, it was a just because gift. Well, it sat on the shelf for like a while. And so there was a time that we really needed to buy some food. We didn't have enough to buy food. I'm not saying that we were going hungry or anything. It's just, it was a time where it was kind of a make or break decision. Should I return it and get some turkey or wait until, my next check or, call a family member, which I know you guys would have helped. But in this case, I decided since he was not using this tube, I would return it and I would buy us turkey. Well, now mind you, this was a just because gift, but he went back and he told his family that I gave away his gift, selfishly gave away this gift so that I could be selfish about it and get myself food, which I thought that was the craziest thing to be upset about because it's food. We need to eat. We need, like, it's kind of like this or that. I mean, if I had my own gift at the time, of course I would have returned it and bought turkey, but he wasn't using his gift. And again, he told his family, he went home, told his family about this to the point where they actually pulled me aside and had a private conversation saying that it was disrespectful of me to return this gift. And that it was his special Christmas gift, which that was a lie, but he told them that. And so it felt like I was in a relationship a lot of the time with his family too, because he would mold it and be like, see what she did, just so that he could have other people on my case and saying, you're wrong, you're basically crazy, and I'm right, and that is that.
I remember Christmas was always so stressful when you were with him because you had to know what you wanted as a gift. You had to tell them in advance. And then you had to ooh and ah over it like it was the best thing ever when it wasn't really something you really wanted to begin with, but you just kind of told them something. So that's how you have this jewelry thing that hangs on the door. I think you've hated that ever since, but we still have it for reasons, I don't know, because it had a mirror on it or something. But I just wanted to tell you that we've got Aunt Rosie's watching. So hi, Aunt Rosie.
Hi, Aunt Rosie.
And Missy Hastings Levine saying she's proud of you. And so I just want to remind the viewers that I'm not here just to help Brianna with her story and keep her on track, as she said, but also to kind of watch the chat. So if you've got any questions or anything, I'm here to kind of navigate that and keep an eye on it so she can keep up with the story.
Yes, please feel free to ask questions. This is an open session. Nothing is private. I don't know, except for the names. Nothing is private outside of that. Another thing that I wanted to talk about as with this episode is that you'll hear me say that I was very upset with myself for reacting to this abuse. And I learned after my episode came out that there is a term called reactive abuse. And what that means is, well, basically it's in the name, but when your abuser abuses you, whether it's mentally, physically, emotionally, which all of those are abuse, you respond back. You're like, oh, you're going to do this to me? Back to you. And it's very sad, but I still blame myself in this episode for reacting. And it's very important for anyone that's in this position that you do not blame yourself for reacting. That is something that you kind of expect from yourself. You get to a point where it just builds and builds and builds and builds, and you explode and you freak out. And so
which is almost playing into their hands too, because when you do that, then it's like, oh, see, I told you you're crazy.
Exactly. And it goes back
it's such manipulation on the part of the other person that you don't even realize that you're being manipulated in that way too, that your reaction becomes part of the manipulation. And there's really no right way to go either. Just speaking from experience, you can try the quiet thing where you don't do anything, you don't react at all. That is never good. And then you can, it's so there's no right way to go. So I know you keep beating yourself up, but there's no right way to go.
Yeah, that is true. You want to because you don't want them to freak out, but at the same time, it's frustrating because you're like, why is this happening? Why am I constantly being told that I am a piece of crap, basically? So it's very important to know that there is a thing called reactive abuse, and it is very normal to happen. So just because you reacted to that abuse does not mean that you are the abuser. And I read this in many articles about it. I also had a therapy session about this. And it's so important to know that just because you reacted, it doesn't mean that you need to take blame for the abuse that was given to you. So I like to call that where they flip the switch, because the abuser will say that you are the abuser when you react. And that's what my mom was talking about prior. And another thing I wanted to share is that at the end, I said that it didn't really get physical. But I also read and learned that even if you are threatened, even though, like, let's say they were going to hit you, but they didn't, that is still considered physical abuse. So it's like a
I
long.
would really go one further too, because I remember very clearly the night that things just came to such a head, and you were he wouldn't let you out of the vehicle.
Yeah, that's true.
He basically had you trapped in the vehicle. That's pretty it's there's more than a threat of violence there. He did that by force. And then there's also the other creepy things that he did, where he would, as you know, because you both worked at the same place, he would hide, and this would be a large box store that we can't name, but he would hide in the women's clothing, where they had all the clothes, you know, like they have those circles where you have the shirts or whatever all in the hangers, and he'd hide in those. He wasn't a very big man in so many respects, but he would hide in the clothing racks and watch you.
Yes.
And see if you didn't get too flirty with the customers.
This is very factual, which I never understood why he did that, because I could see him. It's not like you're fully hidden when you're in the clothes, but he was, I mean, again, I'm trying to rationalize someone that wasn't rational. And there's another time that I did not say on the podcast, because I think it's hard when you're talking to yourself and trying to share this story. But there was a time, this is like probably a couple weeks before the big I'm getting out of the relationship. I was working really late, and after I got home, it was about like 1 a.m. I was done. I had to go back to do my homework. And I was in the living room. He was in the bedroom trying to sleep. And I was doing my homework. My music, I guess, was a bit too loud, which I didn't think it was, but he felt that way. So he took my laptop. Well, first he yelled at me, shut that stuff down. Very derogatory and beautiful language to me. He took my laptop out of my hands and he went like this. And I begged. I said, please, please don't hit me. Please, can I have my laptop? Please don't break it. I need that. I'm going to fail if you do that. Please don't do it. And it took him a moment, but he gave it back and he left. In that situation, I felt like it needs to be shared, because even though he did not hit me, it's still an abuse. It's still a threat. It's still being scared. Mm-hmm. And there was a point where we did get into a pushing match, a very light one. And I just ignored these signs for a while, which is not good.
And you covered them up too. And Aunt Rosie's watching, and she said that you're very brave to help others. And so thanks for that, Aunt Rosie.
Thank you, Aunt Rosie.
And it's true, but at the time, and it's not that you weren't, it's not, so at the time though, you're making these excuses for, and you just be like, well, he's just really, he's got OCD or about his truck, or he's just, and you would just make these excuses for him for whatever reason. And well, he hasn't seen his family in a while and they're really close, so I can't come see you guys. I've got to go see them. And it was always these excuses and these reasons that were really kind of iffy, that just felt kind of like something wasn't fine, and it's good and all this stuff. And then I remember when you broke up, your aunts kind of pulled me aside and like, why didn't you tell us? And like, because she wasn't telling us.
Yeah. That's something to take into account, everyone that is listening. A lot of this stuff, my parents did not hear until after the fact. So it's not like they, were like, oh yeah, good luck to you. They would have gotten me out, absolutely, in a second.
Yeah.
They tried multiple times
Mhm.
to think about it from a different perspective, um, about the things I was telling
Mhm.
them. But as you can see, 2+ years, I didn't. I still stayed. Um, and it's so important to know that you don't have to stay.
Well, and I think you were so concerned too about the money issues
Yeah.
because you were just so intertwined. You had the apartment, you had your name on the lease. I mean, that name on the lease thing was such a big deal to you because he had threatened to ruin your credit by not paying. And because you couldn't afford to pay it all by yourself, there was he just kept manipulating you even after the fact. He kept trying to like, well, I'm not going to pay and your credit's going to get ruined and you won't be able to do anything. And he did things like that to you that we definitely did get to see, but we got to see them after the fact, and they were just so vindictive. And I remember when the lease was finally up and you had to go to the owner, and the owner was just, I'm not taking sides. And because he had told him so many lies, the person that managed the apartment, or whoever that person was.
Yeah.
And it was just a nasty, he involved everybody. I mean, he involved friends of yours to the point that I still have some resentments over some of the things that he convinced your friends of, and that it still bugs me.
Yes, he did unfortunately tell my friends that I had a miscarriage or I aborted the baby, one of the two. And then I had a baby boy, which none of those things happened. And unfortunately, with a manipulator, uh, they're able to get people to believe them because it's the way. I don't know. I'm not really sure why, but it's just they're just able
Don't you remember
to.
he cried? He
Oh
cried
yes, he
telling them
did.
the
Yeah,
story. So of course the story had to be true, because how else could he cry? Like,
yeah,
I don't know,
that's
because
true.
he's a really good liar.
Yeah, he. Yes.
He deserved an Oscar for that one.
Yeah, it was very upsetting to hear the things that he would say because, like I said in the podcast, when you have psychological abuse in particular, it is hard to prove. It is hard to prove that the words are true. And honestly, you have to rely on a hope that people know who you are. And that sucks because a hope is not enough in these cases. Especially when he got so many people involved.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And
and
I think that's part of the reason you didn't involve us either, is because you were afraid of how we would react. I mean, your brother one time literally told him that he said it, the words he said were nice, but the tone was not. He said, I would do anything for my sister, anything. And that sounds really nice. Those words coming out of my mouth sound really nice, except the tone your brother used, it was definitely, you better be good to my sister or else.
yes, yeah, and that's true. I mean, like I said, my family would have done anything for me, but I had a lot of excuses for him. And I think that there is a term for it, but it's like where you, oh, man, what is that term where it's where you like almost like you love your abuser in a way, like you don't mean to, but you
Like Stockholm syndrome,
yeah,
like,
kind of like almost like a Stockholm syndrome because you're like, well, I mean, we had good times. That's the
yeah,
excuse that you give yourself, like, oh well,
right.
I mean, he doesn't do it all the time, or he only
Mm-hmm.
does it this time. And I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that feeling where you're like, I mean, there's because if it was always bad, people wouldn't stay. But there's those
Right.
good times that you're like, well, I mean, it was good here. But when we talk about it now, when it comes back up, it's kind of funny because I honestly don't remember a lot of the good times.
I won't say where I heard this recently, but it was maybe at work. And that's as much as I can say. And this person said, but he wasn't always like that. And I thought, oh, ding, 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 ding. But I can't tell that person that this is a ding, 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 ding moment because he wasn't always like that. Oh, that's bad news.
That's definitely the excuse that you give yourself to believe that the relationship is not bad. And I do need you guys to know that I had a red flag the beginning of the relationship, not just from the fact that I took him from his girlfriend, but the biggest red flag was when, in this, I apologize to Facebook land, but our first time of being intimate together, because I'm giving it all to you, no filter. Our first time being intimate together, I was like, what, 19, 20? And I wasn't sure if I was fully ready for that. But I decided, oh, yes, I'm ready. Well, when things happened, I decided in the midst, like, nope, I'm not ready again. And unfortunately, he pushed me off the bed and then told me that I basically threw myself off the bed. And I only share this because I share this because there are so many red flags that were there. And I've been so open and honest with you guys because I need you to understand that like it's important to know that I had red flags. And I was like, nope, that's not red. it
Yeah.
wasn't it wasn't good. So I did learn though, regarding the restraining order that you can get one. But someone told me that it may have just been that the cop didn't want to fill out the paperwork.
And that happens a lot that sometimes people just don't want to get involved. And it's like a he said, she said thing. And what if you're the liar?
Yeah.
And then there's a whole bunch of paperwork. Or it could be even that you'll go right back to him anyway. So why bother?
Yeah,
There could be some presumptions on the part of whoever.
Yeah, unfortunately, that is seen a lot. But in October, I will be bringing in a lot of because we're going to be going so deep into domestic violence awareness because it is that awareness month, and I will be bringing in people in particular that can help talk about the resources that are available to you that can be used out not just through the restraining order, but other ways of getting out. And we will be sharing that in October because that's very important for anyone that's listening to this right now that may be in this kind of position and doesn't know how to get out. Which with that, one of the questions I had was, how did I get out of an abusive relationship? And I would say, besides my parents trying to give me that perspective, there was one person that I talk about in the podcast that basically said, your feelings are valid. What you're seeing is valid. You are not crazy. Mm-hmm. And from them telling me that, that is when my eyes were open. Now, it still took me a couple of months to get out, to figure out how I wanted to do it, what I was going to do. But I guess I needed to hear that I wasn't crazy and that I wasn't making this up. Because, like I said, you start to believe that you've made it up and you start to believe that you're crazy. And I'm very grateful for all the family and friends that took me aside and said, hey, this behavior is not right. Like it feels wrong. So I really wanted to share that with you guys because to get out, I guess the question of getting out of this abusive relationship, it took some time because I had to admit to myself as well that, yeah, this isn't good. Um, and as you heard in the podcast, I took a lot of I took a lot of roundabout measures to get out. So I am kind of grateful for him uh, trespassing into my property because had he not done that, I don't know when I would have left, to be honest. So I am kind of grateful that he found that message and that he was like, you need to get out. Um, and at that point, I finally was honest with my friend and my family, and they were like, listen, we can take care of the money. We can take care
Mhm.
of getting you out of this situation. There's nothing like compared to your life, everything else can change. We can get you off the phone bill. And we did. My father and I went to AT&T. We took him off the phone bill. We blocked him from everything, even though he continued to make multiple Facebook accounts to stalk me. Um, we did
Got your
all,
furniture, all of your
yep,
belongings, like
yep, we
in the
got
middle
the
of the
plan.
night.
Yeah, it literally was a midnight move out. That's why we call it that. Um, we got all of the belongings. We literally only left him toilet paper. That's all we left him. Uh, when we took everything. I mean, we took all my stuff, not his. And then I had to message, like my mom talked about earlier, I had to message the building owner because he told them that I wasn't going to pay. And I said, I wrote this email very professionally. And I basically said, Dear sir, do not listen to said person. I will speak for myself. I will get you the money on time. I need to represent myself. It's very important that you know this. And then there came a time where he contacted me back. He said, Thank you so much for letting me know. You do get a deposit back. How should I do it? Should I split it in half between you two, or should I give you the sole amount? And at the time, oh, we took the toilet paper. Okay, my father has confirmed we took the toilet paper. I don't know what we left him. I feel like we left him something small, but maybe not. We did
I
a
do remember
lot.
the toilet paper. I just can't. Yeah, there was something about the toilet paper.
Maybe we left like a sheet or something, like a tiny little ply. It was a little petty, but I mean, it happens. Um, but with that being said, he said that, who do I give this money to? And said person did not respond to any of the emails from our, whatever, the owner of the place. So I said, first off, that money was from me. I sent it up from Montauk because that summer prior I was working there. So you can send the money to me. And if he has a problem, we'll go to small claims court. And he said, no problem, and sent the money. Dirty sheets. But not creepy dirty sheets. Just so we put that out there. It wasn't creepy, but yeah. So with that, we had an intense move out. I just want to make sure I'm staying on track here.
You're doing
But
fine so far.
again, if anyone does have any questions, please feel free to ask because this is the open book. I want to share this because we need I want to help. It's important to help, and yes, it is 8+ years later, uh, but I'm still healing with all of this, and I didn't realize how much healing I needed until I heard my episode again because of the blame and shame that I took on in that episode that you hear me take on, because it is not my fault. Um, it's very important to say that to you guys. Just a quick hey to Olivia. I see your comment. And I love you too, Priscilla. Just wanted to make sure I got all the comments there. Um, so yeah, so the anonymous friend telling me I wasn't crazy, the family being there for me at the move out. And when it came to the stalking part, I would say the friends that could see through him, that were looking out for me in public when we would run into him. Those were all of the things that helped me get out of this relationship.
Because he just kept it up. He transferred colleges and he would sit next to one of your cousins in class because she was in college at the same time, and he would try and ask questions about you or badmouth you or whatever it was. I mean, it just didn't stop. This young man just did not stop in his whatever it was, manipulation. What there's so many words for it, but it was just, he was still trying to isolate you from people in your family and in your circle.
Yes, which he did. Like I would get messages from my aunts telling me, "Hey, this person tried to add me today." I'm like, "Oh, just block it." I mean, they were going to do that anyway, but please block it. Because I had put up such a barrier on my Facebook. I was getting sick of being having Facebook. I was getting sick of having a having these random Facebook requests. So I tried to set it up where you had to be my friend in order to add me. And that was super helpful until he added people on my friends list. He went through the whole friends list and added everybody that would be willing to add him. Luckily, there were people that did not add him. Good support system, typical stalker.
Thanks, Deb.
Thanks, Deb. Yes, definitely.
Oh.
And it's important to know, like, from the victim point of view, at first you think that you can't get help. Like, you think that money's the issue. You have all these excuses, but there are ways to get help, and there are things that can help you get out. And even if you feel that your maybe family or friends are not supportive, there are still ways for you, which we will talk about in October.
Right. And I think that there were things that he would do to kind of hide his behavior, like at family gatherings. He would play with your little cousins and play tag with them, and it was all innocent looking stuff. I'm not in any way saying that he was doing something that wasn't appropriate with young people, but I think that was his way of avoiding the adults, because I think that maybe he was afraid the adults would see through him. And so he came off as, oh, look at this nice guy Brianna brought home, and he's playing with the kids and he loves kids, and oh, this is so awesome. Except I think that was part of the game he was playing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, when you look back at it now, it really does seem like more of the manipulation, because again, when it comes to a gaslighter and a manipulator and a narcissist, they need other people to like them. They need other people to believe what they're saying, which is, it's crazy just thinking about it and looking back at it. And I mean, like I said, there's still a lot of shame that I've put on myself that I'm healing through now. It's not gone. It's not over. I still have a hard time saying that I was a victim, because I try to think, oh, well, someone else had it worse than me, so I'm not a victim.
Right. Like it's some sort of contest, right?
Yeah, which it shouldn't be.
Right.
And that's important to know too. Like, just because someone else may have been in a worse situation than you, it doesn't make it any less of abuse. It's still abuse at the end of the day, psychologically, physically, mentally, however you look at it. So I wanted to make sure I said that as well. I have a list that we needed to discuss. So I wanted to, I mean, again, the floor is open. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. As far as when did the stalking stop, I don't know. I honestly don't know if it has truly stopped. I know physically it stopped because I'm in another part of the United States. But otherwise, like, I don't know if it actually has stopped on a cyber level. And I remember I talked to my mom before I even came out with this episode. I was like, I'm kind of scared to put it out there because what if it, what if these things? But at this point, taking back the power is saying it. I don't have to say the person's name, but I'm going to take back my power. And if you are listening to that certain someone, note that I am taking back my power. And it's unfortunate that it is 8 years later, but it's also fortunate because people like you deserve to be found out. Maybe not the name, but you deserve to be found out. Manipulation is not okay. Abusing people is not okay. I just
Well, and I think that's something that some people have an issue with. Like, with in New York, with our governor, there's these accusations, but I'm not going to speak to that because that has nothing to do with you exactly. But what it does do is people are like, oh, well, yeah, 8 years later, now she's finally talking about it, and that is, just why now? Why didn't they say something then? And I think that I'm going to have you answer that question, but I also think just from observations and different things that sometimes it takes you a while to decompress. I like to call it detox. I always talk about detox,
yes.
that I had to have some detox time. But I think that that's part of it, though, is that so people ask, well, how come? Why didn't they say it immediately then? So why didn't you say it immediately then, Brianna? And isn't that accusatory when you hear it that way too?
You
like, oh, don't put me on the spot or anything. And oh, you're still bad because, you're a victim and you didn't say anything. Why not?
See, and I can definitely answer to say that just by being asked that question, obviously she's not really asking that question, but a person asking that question, you automatically think, well, they're not going to believe me. They wouldn't have believed me then if they can't believe me now.
Right.
And the other thing to that question is, you don't want to believe that you were in the position. I didn't want to believe I was in an abusive relationship. I didn't want to view it like that. I thought that I was overreacting, or I just overlooked things, or maybe I just wasn't being good enough in the relationship. So unfortunately, I was still questioning myself throughout the whole thing. And I guess it kind of did take 8 years to look back on it. And I mean, like I said, when I listened to my podcast again, I was like, oh my gosh, this checks this box and this box and this box. I still to this day was like, no, that didn't happen, but it did. It did happen. And I know that a lot of you that are following saw that I was going through a lot of health issues. And I do believe that a lot of these health issues, such as the IBS, such as acid reflux, such as all the things that were happening, I do believe that it was a part of the stress of all the situations that occurred back then. Now, do I have endo? Yes. But I do believe that it took me a while to see that your body reacts to the stress, your body reacts to the things you're keeping in and not telling people. And by me telling this and sharing, I hope that it helps me physically too. I mean, of course, the endo's not going to go away, but the stress of keeping it to myself and keeping these secrets to myself is finally feeling like I'm being free with it, and I need to be free with it. And I do apologize to anyone that feels like it's a bit too much, but it's important because I know I'm not alone on this. I know I'm not. And I want to help people in this situation. I did want to share that of course, I have more unfortunate things to share in my next podcast. I don't know if I'll be like unfiltered part 2 or whatever we'll call it, but you're going to find that there's a lot of unfortunate events, as we can call it, that I allowed happen um, in my life.
See, and there you do. You're doing it again.
I mean, I feel this is important to hear though, because you guys need to know healing isn't linear. Healing takes time. It takes like work, and I guess the first step is admitting I still shame myself, even though I should not. So yeah. You see, that's why it's good to have her on here to call me out. um, so please feel free to ask any questions again if you have any. Um, is there anything I'm missing? I told her my stuff before I got on here, so.
Well, let's see. So you've talked about gaslighting, and I think that's an important thing, that whole gaslighting thing, because, it's like, yeah, well, that really, you exaggerate. I mean, there are so many ways that gaslighting works, and people do it all the time. It's not just it doesn't have to just be in an intimate partner kind of relationship, but sometimes that's anyway. But the gaslighting thing, you really wanted to mention that was important. I'm going back through our notes here on my part, and let's see. I think too, one of the things that that you're just really good at, as I look back to check our notes for a second, one of the things that I think that you're just really good at is you're all about how things look, and not just like how they look in your, like with your pictures and everything. You have such a good eye for making things look good. And I think that sometimes that in this particular relationship, you try to make that look good. It's like you put on your little Brie filter, and like when I have you fix my photographs because I have a little blemish or something, or my face is a little too red because I was outside and it was windy or whatever, and you make all of a sudden I have this beautiful skin, and you fix that for me. You tried to do that too with the relationship. Like, oh no, everything's good. So you put these filters on and you project that stuff out. But that's one of the things that you wanted to talk about too, is that sometimes that you feel the guilt, and either way you're feeling guilty. So you felt guilty because you caused something, you didn't wipe your feet off before you got in his truck, and you caused him to have a little meltdown. You feel guilty now because, well, you kind of saw it, you had these red flags, but you ignored them. So now you're feeling guilty because you should have stood up right then to your 5'8" self, all 99 pounds of you that year, and just And so guilt is really a big motivator. And I think that one of the things with the manipulation too is that they find your weak points and they use them.
Yeah, they do. They really do, because guilt, unfortunately, here I go again with guilting myself again. With guilt, you do feel, you feel like, oh, well, I can't do this because I'll hurt them. And I think that's the empathetic side in me, where I'm just like, I'm a people pleaser. But with that being said, I have had a lot of, I guess, like years to build myself in other ways. Of course, I don't have everything figured out, and I'm working on it every day. I feel like we're all work in progresses on our own. But, with the support system and with the love and the help, especially from Jeremy, I have been able to speak out. I mean, I've had nothing but support from the back end from everybody on speaking out, and I need you guys to know that I may have had some things happen, and you'll hear about them. But we will have a nice segment about Jeremy and how much that man has helped build and shape the person that I am today, of letting me be myself, letting me feel these feelings, and letting me work through them, but also helping build those blocks that I couldn't see. And he's so supportive of the podcast. He's been supportive of therapy and just supportive of everything. If he's hearing this now, though, I will tell you, he's Mr. Humble Pie, so he'll be like,
Mhm.
you can stop talking
Yeah.
about me now.
Yeah.
But I am
Well, and I
appreciative of
think
that.
that too, it's not just Jeremy as much, and I love my Jeremy. In fact, I call him my Jeremy. I decided the other day that he's going to be my birthday twin because other people have birthday twins now. We won't mention their names because of names, but so Jeremy's going to be my birthday twin. But I think for you, you've also done a lot of things. I mean, you started out kind of small with your affirmations and with the secret, and you really started to develop your spirituality in a way that's not, not religion. It's certainly not a religion for you, but you started really trying to surround yourself with positive things and be in positive places. And you went from, being, I think that you started getting out into nature more and just doing things that are like just celebrating your life, which is really important. I mean, I think that's the ultimate gratitude is to be able to actually live, and you've been doing that. And so as much as you've given Jeremy credit, and I love my Jeremy, I think you need to give yourself a little credit too, Pumpkin.
I mean, if you were to ask my counselor, I tend to not do that. I put myself last. And I'm sure you guys could hear it now and hear it in my podcast. But that's why I continue to tell you that, I'm still healing. I'm still working on what we would call shadow work. But yeah, I mean, that is true. I did. I watched a lot of Tony Robbins. I watched a lot of TED Talks. I have been trying to advocate so much. Give yourself a lot of credit. Thank you. You don't do well with that. um, but I think that this platform is very important to me. And it's important to help others because I feel like I was put on this earth to help others. Uh, so here we are.
Mhm.
Um, and I did want to talk about, so as you guys know, we didn't just talk about that said person. We did speak about how my second former boyfriend, trying to say it without saying their names, my second former boyfriend, this is important to talk about, and I hate saying the word, but we have to do this because of the fact that at the time that I found out I had the old clap, I can't say the word, but at the time I found out I had this, this knocked my self-love, self-appreciation, self-worth down a lot of pegs. And it's because instead of looking at it from a point of view that this person gave this to me, I looked at it as a point of view is that I either deserved it in some manner or that I was at fault and gave it to myself by choosing a partner. And I don't want to discredit this person full blown because we have mended our friendship. But it's important to share that the blame that I took from that is not okay. It's not okay for me to take that blame, but I did. And I felt very worthless and disgusting and dirty. And unfortunately, a person that was said friend told me that this is the best thing I could ever be told. I didn't tell many people about this because it's embarrassing, of course. It's embarrassing to admit when you have something like this happen, especially when I was not like cheating or going around and doing, all things. But this friend said to me, well, the reason why this happened to you is because you're a bad Christian and I'm a good Christian, and that will never happen to me.
Right. Oh, good Christian. Yeah.
So I needed to share that because that did not help me feel better, obviously, because I was opening up to that person. I was trying to like I said, I am a person that tried to cover up, like my mom was saying, like filtering my life, making it look good. And yeah, like I went to this said person, and that person unfortunately did not give the helpful answer either. And that's not what you need to hear when it happens, obviously. But when I told Jeremy at the time, he reminded me, or not reminded me, I guess he had to kind of like help me understand that it's not something that I did, and it's not because God hated me. Um, it's because, you know, it's what happened from that person, well, the ex, you know, making the decisions of going around and cheating. That wasn't my worth, but I put my worth on that. I put my self love on that. I guess, which is worth. Yeah.
Mhm.
Man.
Yeah.
Just trying to.
And just to be clear, the person that said that to you was not your ex. That was a friend of yours
Yes, the person
who
that
was
told
not a
me.
friend to you in any way.
No, I don't know why I say friend, because that person really was not a friend. But yeah, I was told. The reason why I bring this up is because it's the first person I told that this happened, and their response was that it was because I was a bad Christian. Um, so that was a great time. But I, you know, I do. We did talk about how I do have a spiritual side. I do believe in God. There is probably an unconventional way that people probably see with it, but with certain parts. But it wasn't because I was a bad Christian. But it took. But when you're in that
It was
low,
because he was an unfaithful boyfriend.
yes. But when you're in that low, you believe you like. I was in such a low of worth, of my
Mhm.
self-worth, that I believed so many things that I was told by all these gaslighting, manipulative
And he
people.
wasn't very kind to you either. He had this like rivalry with you, which was really weird. And he wasn't, I don't know, I just picture him those grungy sweatpants and a t-shirt looking like he hadn't slept in days because he was stuck in the basement somewhere playing a video game. He was just not I don't know, he put his joystick or his paddle or whatever he had down to find these girls. They must have had to go to him.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Well, I do know some of them, but yeah. So I did want to talk about that part because like I kind of quickly touched base on that, but I did want to kind of share that as well. Um, and then, like I said, with all of these things happening all at once, I really do believe that the symptoms that you guys are seeing, where I was talking about the IBS and the acid reflux, I really do believe that it is my body's way of taking in stress, apparently. And I do talk a lot about how I stopped eating. And when I say I stopped eating, I mean like I portioned my food. And I think I wanted to share that with you guys because stress comes out in different ways that you don't expect. And you may not even realize. And for me, it was not eating or portioning myself, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
Restricting. No, it's restricting myself because there's a big difference between portioning and restricting. And I share that because I still am actually working on my nutrition because it's separating the emotions from like trying to use the food as the emotional, whatever you call it there, which yeah, it does happen for like us. So yeah. Um, but again, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask anything. We're opening up. Just gonna check the time. We have a couple more minutes.
Mm-hmm. I don't see any questions. I mean, I've been watching, but we are certainly, you're open to questions.
Yes. Um, This is the debriefing of Unfiltered. And I thought it was very important again because there are things that I've recognized after I listened to my episode. Um, and my therapist was funny because she listened to the episode and she said, when you listen to it, you can hear those moments where you're like, aha, yeah, this did happen, or aha, this did happen. And I did listen back, and that is accurate. I did see that. Um, Now, I think that's everything that we have.
So I think,
This,
Brianna, one of the things that I've been learning about, because I do the history thing. I've been listening to this book about leadership, and it's about let's see, 4 or 5 of the former presidents and their leadership. And the author talks about these crucible events, these crucible moments. And when you think about a crucible, it's like when being under fire. And I think for you, these two relationships, just that you've spoken about this evening, well, you touched on a third.
yeah,
These are all crucible events that, under fire. And what happens to us under fire is there's a couple of different things. It's kind of like you put 3 different things in boiling water and you're going to have 3 different results, right? You put coffee beans in coffee and water, it becomes part of the water and it becomes really strong. The flavor is strong, right? Whereas you put a potato in the water and the potato becomes soft, and you put an egg in the water and the egg becomes hard. And those are, and so you have the same reaction as a person. There's different things that can happen to you in these crucible events. And I think that you need to remember, my little phoenix, that you didn't stay ashes.
yes, that is true. Yes, which I'm still learning that I did not stay ashes. And I am very thankful for everyone that supported me because, again, like I said, there's so much that I didn't tell at those times of like 8 to 9 years ago because I didn't know who to tell, how to tell, and I wasn't sure if I would be believed. Um, and honestly, to bring that up here, when the third thing that we spoke about in the podcast, I dropped a little bit of a bomb in there. I've dropped a lot of them, I felt. We spoke about my dad and my friend. And I don't want to get like too deep into that, but something that was important that I felt needed to be shared is that at the time, um, I I actually stayed with this friend longer than I should have because I was afraid to tell my mom what happened. And my mom and I and my dad have all had conversations about this, so that's why we can be open about it. And I spoke to my mom, and the thing is, it's not that my mom wouldn't have believed me, because that was something that my therapist asked me was like, do you feel you didn't tell her, or like, not because she felt I needed to tell her, but it's like, did you feel you didn't because you wouldn't be believed? And it wasn't the fact that I thought I wouldn't be believed. I feel like my mom and my dad, in ways, have been like a strong support system. They've helped us in so many ways of pushing us towards our goals, being the people that we are today. So it's not like I felt that I wouldn't have been believed, but I was afraid to tell you. You're here, so I was
And
afraid
I'm
to
right
tell
here.
you. So I was afraid to tell you because I was afraid to see you hurt, and that uh, made me keep that secret for so long. Because I know that sounds kind of, again, here we go, trying to shame myself here, but I know it sounds kind of selfish sounding, but I guess, like the biggest fear is watching you, like my mom, if she was gonna break down or cry or fall to the floor, and that was scary for me. So I didn't tell because of that.
Well, and I don't, I think that you worried too much about that.
Yeah. I mean, and that's
In
the thing.
retrospect, because I know I didn't react the way you expected I would.
That's
I'm
true.
not sure what you thought, but I know I didn't react the way you expected I would. And I think that I wasn't surprised because there was a lot of, yeah, I wasn't surprised.
Yeah.
And I do remember having conversations with you like, why are you friends with her? You need to stop being friends with her because she makes you feel bad. Thanks, Aunt Rosie.
Thank you, Rosie.
So I just remember being so concerned about you.
Yeah, which was a total shock. Like she said, I was super shocked because I do overthink. I do feel like I need to protect, and I do feel like I need to like be the peacemaker or whatever. Not like a peacemaker between you and him, but like just a peacemaker of keeping the peace, and not like ruffling any feathers. And
Right.
I just, yeah, like I stayed because not only did I stay in two relationships that I shouldn't have been in, but again, that's guilt. Here we go. See, I'm telling you guys, I'm healing. I'm healing. But I also stayed with a friend that wasn't a friend.
Definitely
That
not.
doesn't. She also was a gaslighter and a manipulator and a narcissist. There's there's a lot of mental abuse in there and reactive mental abuse that occurred with that friend, not friend.
Yes.
But it's just like with the money situation with the former boyfriend. I was like, I can't leave because of the money situation, and I felt I couldn't leave that situation with the friend because I felt if I leave, then my mom's gonna ask why, and if she asks why, how do I tell her what happened? Because I don't have the strength to do so, and I don't know how, and I didn't know what to do with it. I honestly didn't know what to do with it.
See, and that's why the whole mom thing kind of kicked in with me. It was like, no. So I was like, no, like we need to regroup and we need to take care of Brianna. And I wasn't really, because at that point I was already taking care of me.
Which you are a very strong, independent woman. I mean, it's not like you're not those things. My mom has been on multiple trips by herself where people were like, "What are you doing? Don't do that."
I'm going to Russia because I can.
So like it's not like my mom, I don't know what I was saying here, but basically, independent woman here. But the reason why all these things are being brought up today, it is not to, bring up the hurt of the past, but it is to, you know, heal. And in order for me to heal, it is to share in the podcast. And I know that that's a bit, a public forum, but it was because of two reasons, which I always feel like I have to explain myself, but here we go. One reason is that I wanted to help others and to, show them like, hey, yes, I have beautiful photos. Yes, I have a beautiful relationship with my husband, but there are mountains like we talked about that I have faced that I didn't talk about. And the biggest healing a lot of people do is either they journal it, they write a letter, they burn the letter. And for me, I think the reason why I chose a podcast, I actually just learned this in my previous therapy session, is that I feel like I can speak and be heard this way. And that's why I guess it's so public, which I don't know. Some people would be like, "Why would you do that? That's crazy." But not, and no one said that to me. So side note, but like some people for themselves are like, "Look, I wouldn't be able to do that." But I don't know. I guess it's because I can just speak, and I'm actually being heard. Because a lot of times like you've heard, I put myself last, and I don't let people in or tell them things, and I feel I can be heard this way, I guess.
I think you're doing a great job, Punky.
Yeah. So
You need to say that like you believe it.
I'll try. So we won't let this get extended too far. I think it was super important to debrief the unfiltered episode. Thank you. My dad said, I'm totally proud of you. And I appreciate that. Yeah, what was I saying? Oh, yes. So we won't like extend this too far out. Thank you for everyone that has come on and stuck with us this whole way. Oh, Tiberius says it's over. So we have debriefed unfiltered, and
I do want to put out a little teaser though, because it's my understanding. Sorry, there's horse and buggies that just went by my house. So I don't know where you're all watching this from, but I live in Amish country, and the dogs don't like the Amish horses. But I think that we need to tease out though that you have an arc, like a story arc for your briefings, your not your debriefings, but for your episodes when it's about you. And so just remind us of what the arc is. So you've got, like it's basically your road to Jeremy is part of it.
oh yes, yeah, yes. So we talked about my stalker and abusive relationship. The next one, we will be talking about the second relationship. And that's important because all of these relationships lead up to my husband.
Right.
And
it's like your broken road.
Yeah, my broken road to Jeremy, which you guys need to know. Like, I'm not hiding anything. This man is beautiful. My dad calls him Saint Jeremy. My mom calls him my Jeremy, and my brother says Saint Jeremy too. So he's beautiful, beautiful soul. So yes, so my next episode will be next. No, we're in April. It'll be this month, probably at the end of the month again, and it will be about the second relationship, just to lead us to Jeremy. So.
Yes.
And endometriosis will also be in there because that is also a part of my life as well. So we really appreciate all of you that came on here. Thank you so much for listening to the Brie Pod. If you have heard this and you want to share your story, or you have something that you would like to get your voice out there on, please message me because I am open to advocating, really. Matt, I'm open to advocating. So it's St. Jeremy. Yeah. Like I said, they call him St. Jeremy. But again, the next episode will be this Wednesday, and we will be talking to Tanya Demers about anxiety, which is super important because I feel like most of us have it to a certain degree. So thank you again, guys. I hope you have a good night. Thanks to my mom for being my co-host to help me stay on track and to help me recognize when I was guilting or shaming myself. This will be shared on all of the platforms as well, in case anyone missed it. So I love you guys. And
love you, baby.